Welcome to Coffee Talk, brought to you by Hyatt Commercial.
I'm your host, Justin Mullen, where industry executives talk leadership, culture, and commercial real estate. Grab your coffee and let's talk business.
Can't think of his last name, but yeah, so 3 times
That's wow. That's so cool. You went 3 times. That's awesome.
But, all right, are we good to go? Cool. All right. Well, Liam O'Meara, thanks for being a guest here on the podcast. Liam and I were just talking about that we met. It's probably been over 30 years ago now.
Definitely.
Grew up playing sports together a little bit, against each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
Graduated the same year from rival high schools. 30 some years later now, we are almost like cousin companies or sister companies. Liam runs a company, EQR, which I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself here in a minute, which is kind of an extended part of the Reliable and the Reliable Group family of companies. But as we do, we're going to start with a challenging question for you.
Right on.
If you had to describe your leadership style in one word or just a few words, what would it be?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me in, Justin. This is a lot of fun. I would say my style is consensus building. Like, I'm a big consensus builder, even if, the consensus is what I want it to be built around. If I have a preconceived notion of what I want it to be, definitely my management team is very used to me coming in, bouncing up ideas off of them, getting them to put in their twist on it, putting it all back together, and then coming up with an idea or decision based on the team's hive mind, brain trust, whatever you want to call it. I'm definitely not one to be a top down, do as I say. I tend to try to get everybody's input, build a vision around, what I think the team is capable of and what their vision is, and execute basically.
And which is probably something I consider similar to what I think my leadership style is.
Right.
The consensus building, and to your point, it doesn't mean you go out and ask everybody for their opinion necessarily in advance.
Right.
You may come up with an idea, and then you go and say, this is what I think we should do. What's your thoughts on it?
Exactly.
Right? And then you've got to prove to people, why it's the right idea or not.
Right.
It's funny. Have you ever taken any leadership? And again, keep in mind, we have not discussed this answer in advance. Sometimes I'll talk to the person beforehand, but this is the first I'm hearing of it. So I like consensus builder, but I recently took like a leadership 360. I forget what the exact description of it is.
Yeah.
And what I discovered is that while I do think of myself as a consensus builder, some of the people that I work with definitely
didn't think so.
They note that, you may come to, push us in the direction you want us to go, which as a leader, you have to do that.
Sure.
So,
absolutely.
It's one thing to get everybody on board, and ultimately, that's the accountability part, is like, you gotta have everybody in agreement in order to then hold each other accountable. So
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think you probably noticed this, is that even when you have an idea where you want to go with something, if you go around to the team and you get input and you ask them what they think and you get their ideas, even if they don't like what you come up with, at the end of the day, they know they participated.
You've given them an opportunity to chime in,
and they might buy it a little bit more.
No doubt. No doubt. And even more frequently, somebody does have a better idea or a way to do it a little differently than what you thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the time.
And that's where I've found that I've gotten better as a leader over the years, rather than trying to solve the problem myself, coming up with what I think is a good solution, and then saying, go figure this out.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, you want to have independent and interdependent teams that can run on their own, right? If you want to scale up, if you want to get really big, you cannot make every decision for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
You've got to have teams that can work on their own, think on their own, come up with their own solutions. And they can't do that if you're making every decision for everybody all the time. You just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. All right. With that, introduce yourself, your company, your background, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm Liam O'Meara. I'm president of a company called EQR, that's Environmental Quality Resources. And EQR is an ecological restoration construction company. So it's a bit of a niche, but what we do is we do the work that improves water quality for the Chesapeake Bay watershed and other watersheds in the region. It's all of the things that go into improving water quality, from stormwater management to stream restoration to living shorelines. We do stormwater management maintenance. We do native plant landscaping. We have a native plant nursery as well. So we're basically, the implementation arm of the Clean Water Act and the Chesapeake Bay program and all of these programs that exist to improve the water quality in the Chesapeake Bay.
And so professionally, you've managed to thread the needle of being an industrialist who's also taking care of the environment. A lot of people that would love to be able to live that, that career.
It is a little bit of a, it's a niche sometimes, but what I like to think about what we're doing is that we're professionalizing and making efficient the environmental world. What we're doing is we're taking, I come from a construction background. I come from a construction family. My entire family, my whole life, it's been construction of various types. And we're taking that professional construction mindset to the environmental world, which, it tends to come from a more community-based, grassroots, nonprofit-based world, which is not conducive to, scaling up and doing things efficiently at a large scale. So, it is a little bit of both worlds. Work in construction, which most people think of as a destructive or anti-environment type world. But we're taking the production mindset, the efficiencies from working in that way, the professionalism from the construction industry, applying it to the environmental space.
Which is critical. I mean, as somebody that's on the construction side, that's looking to develop and do all that, what you don't want is the solution to just be a neighborhood cleanup that goes and cleans one stream one at a time, which is great. And there's no doubt that there's value to that, but you've got to have the balance of, we want to build here, but at the same time, we want to make life better. And make the environment healthier and the water safer and all of that. And so you can't have that if it's the small mom and pop nonprofit world, just taking care of your own neighborhood, which is great. Like I said, that's an important part, but you've got to be able to apply like kind of big picture solutions to these problems that are getting caused by big picture issues.
That's right on, man. You nailed it. That's it right there. I mean, that's why EQR exists, is because there are large scale problems. We have watershed scale problems in this area that go back 300 years. And you cannot fix that by planting a couple of trees and picking up some trash. The scale of the problem is too big. So we really, as a community, I think in general in this region, we've done a really good job of scaling up the response to the problem. I think everybody, for the most part of the Chesapeake Bay, wants to do more to get clean water, to have, we want better fishing. We want clean water to swim in. We want our drinking water to be secure. We want all these things. We want nice green spaces to spend our time. And I think, collectively, we have done a good job of organizing the efforts from the states and the local governments to get those results, which are not going to come from each community individually thinking about their own little plot of ground.
I want to come back to the kind of beginnings of EQR and your role there, and even maybe a little bit ahead of that, but just because it's really timely, and forgive me if I'm asking a question you don't have an answer to today. Why does the Chesapeake Bay look so clean right now?
Yeah.
Have you noticed this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. As families that grew up on the water my entire life, this is the clearest I've ever seen the bay.
It is remarkable.
Please tell me it has something to do with us doing a better job.
I hope so. I would hope so. I don't think we can't take full credit, but there have been a lot of improvements. It's hard to see these incremental slow improvements over time. But what I will say is that we had a really dry year this year. So there hasn't been as much runoff carrying pollutants into the bay.
Yeah, that's normally I keep reading. Yeah.
But on top of that, we have had really strong incremental improvements in stormwater and stream restoration and wastewater, where we maybe have a little higher baseline to work off of than we did in the past.
Yeah, it's good to hear. So there's no doubt it's part of it.
Oh yeah, I wish it was all EQR's doing, but we had a really dry year, but there are problems with stormwater and with our streams.
Well, it shows you exactly what the issue is.
Exactly.
Right. If we're not getting water hitting the ground and running into the streams, and all of a sudden it's clean. Cleaner than it's been in what I can remember. Well, we should be cleaning the water a little better, probably.
Absolutely. I think it's been great because I think it has given everybody an opportunity to see what it could be like.
Yeah. It is. For those of you that have not paid attention, go onto Instagram or Facebook or anywhere and just start searching like Chesapeake Bay clean water, and the number of skates that you can see and the grasses that are growing right now is really cool.
It's amazing. I mean, people sight fishing in the Chesapeake Bay, which is remarkable, right? Normally you can't see 6 inches into the water, and folks are out there, scanning the horizon for fish, which is amazing. Yeah. And the dolphins, I don't know if you've seen the dolphins. They've been around.
A huge school of dolphins, or pod of dolphins, right in front of Mayo Beach, our little beach in Bay Ridge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, really been impressive this year.
Good. With that, let's go back there to the beginnings of EQR, your role, and kind of where it is today.
Yeah. So I started out in infrastructure construction with Reliable Contracting. I was a project manager there for a long time, managing new developments, utilities, road work, that kind of thing. And through that work, through doing developments that had stormwater management and some stream restoration, I started doing stream restoration work and stormwater management work, and just loved it. Yeah. Fell in love with it. I mean, it's the most fun you can do in construction, I think. The opportunity came up for Reliable to buy into this company, EQR, which had been run as a successful business for 20 years at that point. And I advocated for this pretty heavily. I thought this was a great idea, talked to the owners of both companies and, really wanted to make that deal happen, not with the assumption that I was going to go over to EQR. I just thought it would be great to have this as a line of business that the greater company could pursue. And then I had the good fortune for Jay Baldwin and to say, hey, why don't you go over there and you can run the company maybe in a couple of years. So I started at EQR as a general manager back in 2013, and walked in the door cold, didn't know anybody. It was a very kind of intimidating, scary way to start at a company. But it turned out we had fantastic people there, went really well. The former owner decided it was going so well that he just decided he was going to go play golf and went off on his own and had a good time. And, we were able to get in there and grow the business.
How quickly did you assume a leadership role?
Within a year.
Yeah.
So I came in as I was general manager and then COO and then president within maybe 2 years, probably.
Yeah. And how has your leadership style changed from then till now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's evolved quite a bit. I used to think construction can be a very top-down, almost military style organizational structure. I used to think that was the way everything had to work, is that you had your managers, and then underneath them, they had their deputies and their colonels and their, all the way down the line. And I used to think that we had to, everything was very black and white in terms of management, and come around to see that the world doesn't work like that. And if you want to maintain a team that can think outside the box and can maintain good relationship with clients and solve problems on their own, you have to let people work their own solutions out a little bit.
Was there a moment in time that you came to that realization? Did it happen slowly?
I think it happened slowly, but I think the thing that really boiled it down for me was we expanded into Virginia. So we always did a little bit of work in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, and then the odd project out in the Richmond area or whatnot. But we decided it must have been probably 2017 or 18, that we were going to start a new branch and operation in Richmond, Virginia. And I thought we can set up the same structure, the same policies, the same rules, the same standard operating procedures, the checklists and everything, and send some guys out there and it's going to go smoothly, right? And it was the total opposite. Not being able to stop by the job and check on people, having to get in the car and drive 2.5 hours down 95 just to go see folks. It really crystallized very quickly that the way we operate locally was not going to work down there. And it took us a few years to transition to where we empowered somebody to essentially run their own business. Yeah. They have to be the entrepreneurial and be a manager almost as if they're running their own, separate business because of the way that the geography works. You couldn't just pop by.
And so what's your footprint now?
So now we are basically Pennsylvania down to Roanoke, Virginia, and Tidewater, Virginia. So, we're most of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, plus a little bit further west, into some other watersheds.
You still have satellite offices, local offices?
We do. Yeah, we have one in Richmond, Virginia, and that's been very successful. They're doing very well. That area has been a growth spot for us.
And the person that you kind of empowered to lead that team, are they still there?
They're still there. Yeah. They're still there. And he wasn't the first one. We tried a couple other options out until we realized, hey, I need somebody who can run an operation themselves, can everything from having a sales mindset for getting work to, managing the HR blowups that inevitably happen.
That's what leaders have to do. You got to be kind of a utility tool for the company.
Yep. And before I looked at it as a project management exercise. Like, we can get a good project manager down. Right. They can run the projects. They can get the invoices out on time. But, that doesn't work when you need somebody to run the whole show, basically.
Do you guys have a central services model where you're doing accounting and some other stuff like centrally, and then the field offices are really focused on providing the service and building a team down there?
That's a good question. We've gone through different iterations of how centralized and dispersed we want to be. Right now, all the accounting is centralized. All the HR, training, recruiting, the shops, the back office is all centralized. And we have basically yard to store equipment and inventory, and we have an office in Richmond. Everything else sort of runs out of home office.
Yeah.
What we're running into now is that everything about that model works great, except recruiting. For recruiting, I think that, when people are looking at a potential career, they want to see the local presence. If you want to interview somebody, to drive down 2 hours, 2.5 hours to go meet somebody, and then they don't show up.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work. And I think the people that we want to see a more local boots on the ground presence. So that's something we're struggling with right now, is whether or not we want to create a recruiting and HR presence in Richmond and in that area, just so we can scale up a little bit more, because we're kind of at a crossroads.
So diving into the different facets of the business infrastructure, how many people do you have? What are the roles that they fill?
So we're about 220 some employees right now.
Had to be pretty big. Yeah.
I'd say it's about maybe 1/3 of our employees are in the heavy construction, stream restoration, living shoreline part of it. Another third would be the maintenance, which is much more labor intensive. So those guys will run out and fix a problem in a stormwater management pond, or they will maintain the vegetation in a rain garden or another BMP. And then another third in landscaping, doing native plant landscaping, invasive plant management, which is also very labor intensive. And then we have our back office staff and shops, logistics, accounting, all those things that make it all work.
And how do you, if you look out into the future, do you have a clearly established kind of vision of where you want the company to go? And do you have a team of people that either collaborate to create that vision, or obviously they help to implement the plan to build that vision? But how many people are involved in that part of the from a leadership perspective?
That's a good question. So we have a pretty small core leadership team. There are really 4 of us that do most of the work in setting a vision and holding everybody accountable. But then we have great leaders in each department. For every group I just talked about, we've got somebody who's responsible for growing that part of the business. And we have goals to create a new location, to build a new branch in a new geography. And right now we're in the dipping our toes in different markets stage. So, we're lucky in construction. We can bid work out of our normal geography, put folks up in hotels and do a, remote job here and there. So it allows us to sort of see where the work is and where we could do really well. So one of our goals is, let's keep growing. We'll keep finding a new opportunity, keep growing geographically. We have been a company that has traditionally developed our own leadership internally. So we have folks that have come up through the ranks over the years. We haven't been big about doing acquisitions or hiring outside. Most of our leaders have come from, they started out digging holes.
How many competitors do you have in a given market? I mean, is it a highly competitive? Is it a pretty niche thing that there's 1 or 2, 3 of you that do it and fight for every project?
Yeah, it's very dependent on the locality. So here in Anne Arundel County, it's extremely competitive because there are 4 or 5 businesses here that have been doing it for a long time.
And I got to imagine there's some smaller mom and pops too that have barges and equipment and can do some work that is competing with you guys who may have a lot more capability. But
it's funny. We see a lot of folks try it out once. And then we don't see them on a bid list again, but there are some smaller, we're in a unique position. We're one of the few larger firms that do what we do. There are a lot of local small companies that might be able to do a smaller stream restoration or stormwater management project, but there are only a few of us that can handle the really large stream restoration projects and stormwater management projects.
Well, I can only imagine, knowing how challenging doing construction in really in any market in the East Coast, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you get further south, it becomes a little bit easier, but everything is so highly regulated. It's very challenging. But then to add in the fact that you're doing it on the water. Who are the different regulatory entities that you're competing with? Or
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
collaborating with maybe is it?
yeah, I mean, it's a blessing and it's a curse, right? To be clear, we only exist because of all these regulatory structures that are there.
Right.
Like, the Clean Water Act dictates that things need to happen in a certain way, and that all those requirements cascade down into the localities and the state and local regulators that dictate how this work gets done. But that is a significant barrier to entry for other folks that can't figure it out. We have to have a certain level of sophistication to be able to comply with a lot of these things. We're testing water quality on the job every day. We're taking habitat and impacts into account, and we're getting multiple permits where maybe we need MDE, DNR, EPA, the whole alphabet soup of all of these organizations. They can all be involved in one project.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if there's tidal water involved. You get Army Corps of Engineers. If there's waters of the U.S., you can get all these different agencies involved. To our benefit, keeps a lot of people out, but also it's part of the reason I don't have much hair on my head. So.
I've got a white beard now because my business is the opposite on the brokerage side of our business. It's it's the wild west.
I bet.
And when you manage 20 plus agents,
I can only imagine. Yeah.
That's what got me white.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. They're all running and gunning, right? Yeah.
So with that said, that you've got to live within that regulatory framework, do you guys implement less on the project side and more on the company side, any kind of operational excellence or any kind of very specific leadership structures, Yeah.
I mean, we have quality is literally the middle name of the company. Right? I know it's cheesy, but we say that all, environmental quality resources. So we do a tremendous amount of work just making sure that we take stock of who's doing a really good job delivering a really nice project at the end of the day, and make sure that we have a whole company award program that helps recognize these folks.
And I can only imagine how many eyes are on your projects when they're done. I mean, if you're going into a community or even in the woods in the middle of nowhere, there's people that love that land. And they are looking at every detail of what you do, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially in neighborhoods, we're literally in people's backyards. A lot of times these stream restorations used to happen more and more out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. More likely lately, you're in a neighborhood and there's a backyard on one side and there's a backyard on the other side, and we're trying to work in between and not disturb everybody's the situation or knock trees down the wrong way or and we get we have to be excellent, because if you're not, people notice.
Now the flip side of that is, the really cool thing is, if you have not seen one of these restorations, you've got to see one, because I grew up in Cape St. Clair where we had streams going all over the place. And then I don't know who did it. It may have been you guys, but right down here in Homewood in Annapolis, there was, the head of the spa was, restored. And for 5 years that I lived there, it was just trash here, just a flat bed and nothing going on. It gets restored, and all of a sudden you've got boulders and ponds and moving water, and it's a real living stream after. It's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's one of the things I like most about what we do, is that, most of the construction world, you build something that starts depreciating the day you walk off the job, right? The day you finish, it's the nicest condition it's going to be in, right? And it's the opposite for what we do.
That's cool.
So we finish a project, we plant it, and you come back in 10 years and it's beautiful, right? And the trees have grown up, and the the stream has adapted the conditions that you built, and it only gets better with time, which is, I think, what draws a lot of people to our industry.
Yeah, that's cool. So back to the kind of operational systems that you implement. We've had a handful of people on the podcast that use EOS or some version of that. Do you guys have anything specific to the way you lead, or is it just your own? You've created it yourselves internally?
Yeah, you're the second person to mention EOS today. I did not know about EOS until today. This is the second
time. It's weird. Once you start hearing EOS, the number of people that use some version of it or are familiar with it is amazing.
I have to look at that. Do you guys use that?
I would say we use our EOS Lite version.
Okay.
Right. We kind of separate the Hyatt team into kind of two categories. We've got agents that are providing services to the client.
Okay.
And then we've got our shared services or our support team staff that provide services to the agents.
Right.
And our support team staff does an excellent job of running their own light version of EOS.
Okay, got it.
And it's all about cadence of meetings and setting, goals and a vision, and then backing into 90-day sprints. And so there's a whole system behind it, but more so I'm interested to hear just generally what leaders do with their companies,
So we do a lot of strategic planning. We meet every year to set strategic goals, and we assign specific tasks to leaders to coalesce around that vision that we create for the company. We probably do it in a little more fragmented way, in that we sort of say, here's the vision for the company. Here's what we want to do. Here's the big picture. We want another branch we're developing. We want to double our non-native invasive plant management team and revenue within a couple of years. And then we'll say, okay, hey, Justin, I want you to work on this aspect of it. Here are 3 tasks.
Yep.
And so we do that.
Yeah. That's what in EOS, they call those priorities or rocks.
Okay.
Like those are things that you're trying to accomplish on a specific timeline.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
And then the cool thing, and again, the great thing about EOS, in my opinion, and not that we're using it all that strictly, but is it creates an accountability framework where everybody's agreed. Here's the vision. Here's the plan. Here's your role. Now we're going to meet regularly and give each other updates on how we're doing on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm definitely going to look into this EOS program, because it's now that it sounds
there's a lot of varieties of it. And again, if anybody, in my opinion, if anybody tried to actually do everything in an EOS platform, you'd spend all your time doing that instead of doing what but
understood. Yeah. I think the challenge we have, I'm sure everybody has this problem, but it is, okay, you have these strategic initiatives, and then you have your day job where you're putting out fires all the time and getting everyone to stop, take a deep breath, and remember that whatever strategic initiatives they're supposed to be working on, whatever tasks they have in that, to remember to keep those in mind and get those done too. It's always been a challenge.
So, all right, now I'm going to go back a little bit further. Did you know you wanted to be a leader of a business? Did you have a vision at a young age, or like an entrepreneurial itch at a young age? I mean, I've told the story a dozen times on the podcast that I was selling blow pops in third grade. The sales part was cool, but the how much can I spend, and then how much can I sell them for? How much does that put in my? I'm like, this is I loved the creative thought of it, more than the actual deal.
Than actually,
but that was where my mind was back then. Anything you can point back to? I mean, did you know you want to do something like this?
I don't know about the leadership aspect of it, but I always loved construction. I always loved playing in the dirt. I just remember there was a stream behind my house growing up, and I was always in there with a shovel, making a dam and then removing the dam. And then,
that's cool.
Taking trees and building them into structures and things like I always just loved that part of it. The leadership part, I think, just came naturally from being in the family that I'm in and having the opportunities that I had. It's,
to some people, leadership does just come very naturally, I mean, we all have to work at it. I think you've got to be cognizant of how to get better at being a leader.
Absolutely.
But for some people, it does just come naturally, the instinct to do it,
Right.
Just because you mentioned your childhood, and how jealous have you been that your parents didn't build their new house and put a slide inside of it? So when I first graduated college and I was trying to be an entrepreneur, didn't know what the heck I was going to do, and I needed to make some money. And I think it was Chip Hardesty.
Oh, yeah.
And Rick Gibb. Building your parents.
Yeah.
Like, Justin, we need somebody to paint window frames or something. And I remember walking into the house and being like, they're putting a slide inside the staircase.
Oh, I know. It's incredible. It's incredible. And that was, my mom's vision. And she had this wonderful sense of, let's make something really fun. And I think Rick, I was talking to him recently, and he was like, wow, that was really hard. We had to calculate the spiral and the elevation of the top and the elevation of the bottom and how to make it fit, because we were framing in the house around this slide. And it sounded like a really fun construction problem, honestly. But I was a little jealous because I was already, I was getting married and they were moving into this beautiful house.
I'm sure kids enjoy it.
But my kids love, I mean, that is a highlight. And it's still a highlight for me. Guys still go down first.
Good for you. Well, good. So tell us again a little bit about what your day-to-day in the business is now, as the leader of the company, a couple hundred employees, like what do you do every day?
Just go to meetings, to show up. It's a privilege that I get to work with clients regularly. So our key clients that are, need us to give input on projects. I try to be the tip of the spear on that and be the first person that the client calls. So that if they have something they want us to work on, I can deal directly with them rather than
that's similar to me.
Somebody.
That's similar to me. It's like if we've got a key client that wants to do something in the business, I'm usually the first phone call.
I think that's smart. Yeah. So it's a lot of that. I do a lot of client interaction and then organizing the team around whatever we need to do for them. A lot of estimating oversight. So I spend a lot of time just reviewing projects, which I love. I love getting a set of plans. I mean, we don't get the set we can roll out anymore, but I can, pull them up and start breaking it down, looking at it and thinking about how we can attack the project. And then all the rest of the boring stuff that I do that is less fun is the HR stuff, the accounting. I know a lot of people that are very into breaking down financials and doing the business accounting and love that stuff. That stuff I put up with so I can do construction, basically, you know. But day to day is a lot of evaluating prospects, going to see projects, managing the team, and making sure that everything else is running well. So making sure that we get our bills paid and we get our invoices out and that cash flow is working. And
it's funny when you take on that leadership role, one, I don't think you realize it, and maybe you did, but when I took over running Hyatt, and I was just the sales manager day one. Right. And it took a couple of days or a couple of months or something to all of a sudden realize if I don't show up every day and generate the revenues as a sales manager, there's a whole team of people that don't have a job in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
And then as you grow and it gets bigger and bigger, that weight,
Oh, absolutely.
Now there's a huge privilege to that, that you get to be the leader, but that weight definitely can.
I'm sure you feel this way, but I tell my folks all the time, they'll say something about working for me, and I'm like, well, I feel like I work for you,
100%.
I'm doing this.
I totally agree with that.
And I'm sure you see that.
Because realistically, and in particular in the business that I'm in, if I just wanted to be a one-man shop and go be a broker, I could do that, and I wouldn't have to answer to anybody. Leading a team, you have to answer to those people. It's not the other way around most of the time.
You do. And I feel an obligation that I have to continue to grow the business and continue to be successful so that everyone else can be as well.
Yeah.
I have a question for you though. So you came from sales, right?
Yes.
And then you're managing a team.
Yes.
I felt like I came from project management and then started managing a team. Do you feel like you have a bias towards the sales side of the business because that's where you came from, or was there a learning curve on that?
Great question. Two thoughts, and I've said this to other people before. One, I don't think I was ever the best broker. It's kind of actually the way I was in sports either. I was rarely was I the best player on a team, but I was a decent leader and I worked hard and I kind of had a good vision for how things should work together. So I actually have enjoyed the transition to leadership far more than I enjoyed being a day-to-day broker.
Makes sense.
Because I do like seeing the big picture and not just being focused on one thing every day. To answer your question, I think if you asked my partners in the business that run the other divisions of the company, they would say, absolutely, Justin has a bias towards the sales team. And I would agree with that, but I would also defend that. I also just think that everybody else has a chip on their shoulder that they're not on the sales team. So I think that everybody else kind of looks at the sales team and it's like, hey, you guys think you're hot stuff because you're out there selling. And because of that, they get kind of beat down a little bit. What's your schedule?
But that always going to be there.
It's great. And everybody, and that is where I always say our support staff now will tell you too, I will defend them to the end of the earth because I know they're fantastic. So if a sales, if one of our brokers is not treating somebody appropriately, which rarely happens, I am going to defend our support staff, but they know that they're there to support the agents because that's who's out.
That's where the work is done.
I mean, that's where the dollars and cents are made.
Right.
We couldn't do it without the support team, and it's a very back and forth relationship.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, interesting.
One of the challenges with us too is that, and again, when you've got 5 companies under one roof like we do, and even inside of our own company, this support team and then the agents, the challenge is the agents are all 1099, right? They eat what they kill. And because of that, they're really on their own schedules too.
Right.
Now I would say 90% of them are pretty steady business hours, but they come and go at their own leisure. And when you have a support team that's expected to be there at all times and support them, that's where if the respect isn't equal, that's where you get into trouble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As a support team member, I always tell everybody, I go, look, you've just got to accept the fact that this is their role and this is your role. We can't judge each other across those lines,
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because, and I think in all businesses, there's probably those aspects where there's folks that are good at a certain thing and they're completely different personalities. than the folks that do something else as the
Oh, there has to be.
It's great because I'm sure a lot of those folks in support probably couldn't do some of the sales things that the other folks do and vice versa.
But they want to.
Right.
That's, it's also part of what you want to do. But, we've even gotten now, I've said it a couple of times. We went from when I first took over as sales manager, we were like a golf team. Everybody was an individual. Playing their own game. Right. And you tally it all up at the end of the day and see how we did. Yeah. Right. Then we've transitioned over the years to like a basketball team. Everybody has a little bit of a specialty, but you're still playing a full court. You got to play offense. You got to play defense. Right. And now, shockingly, I'm like, we're like a lacrosse team.
Not a soccer team?
No, because soccer is up and down. Lacrosse, you've got offensive players and defensive players, and then some people that go both sides of the field. And my point is just that, like, when we were small, I had to recruit people that could be full field players. They had to be able to go build their own business, run some of their own marketing. Right. And as we've gotten bigger and more specialized, now I actually have to do what you were just describing. I've got to go recruit people that aren't like the rest of us. They add some new value that's culturally they've got to fit in, but skill wise, we need people to add new value to the company. Right.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I like your sports analogy. That was good. Yeah.
Somehow it always comes back. All right. With that, we're coming to the end here. Let me ask one final question. If you looked out a few years, 5-10 years, which we are now getting to the age where we actually are looking out at what the future is. Yeah. How would you define success personally and as a company? If you look out 10 years or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I would define success for me is in growing EQR and giving my team the opportunity they deserve to grow and continue to do more and better work and advance in their careers. Like I said earlier, we've developed from within. We can't grow tremendously fast because of that. If we were going to go out and acquire a bunch of businesses and we could grow a lot faster. But I think the way that we go about it allows everybody to have an opportunity and a pathway forward to continue to grow and advance. So, I would be extremely happy if we're double the size we are in 5 or 10 years. And that would be a great outcome for us, to give the opportunity for everybody to do more and better work. And personally, I would love to see us get to a point where we see that Chesapeake Bay with clear water, where you can see the grass, you can see the rays, you can see the fish every year. Regardless of how much it rains. I think that's in the industry we're in. You can't be in this business if you don't care about the outcomes. It's just a really hard competitive business. And if you don't care about those kind of outcomes, it's really hard to stay in it. You can do something else. Yeah. And that's where I see, success for me would be able to go out and see.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you're definitely in a unique position where like the work you're doing is truly meaningful, to yourself, to your community, to greater good. And what I've kind of leaned in on our side of things, what's that kind of like internal success? Like I always look at it similar to you're talking about putting your team in positions where they can grow within the team and all of that. Like we touch so many business owners and clients that I was looking at, I'm like, we're helping them build their legacy for themselves and their family. Right. A business needs a new location. That location is going to be there for a long time. And what they're building is getting handed off to the next generation. Or
that's really cool to be part of that.
Yeah. Real estate is great. I enjoy real estate. I enjoy people. Right. As difficult as they can be at times, I enjoy the relationships and connecting people.
Well, plus helping people execute on their vision and their dreams or whatever, finding the right space to make that happen.
It's just fun to have. It's just fun to do that. You get to literally be part of that like growth or your strategy of somebody's business. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool. I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun. That's cool.
I appreciate your business and working with you. And
likewise,
we will get back together again.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, that's well done. Cool. You're getting good at this.
It's easy. You got people like
Thanks for tuning in to Coffee Talk with Justin Mullen. Topics on leadership, culture, CRE, brought to you by Hyatt Commercial. Until next time.